this Danish weird thing, right, where we go out for coffee with people, but usually people we don't necessarily know super well. And also usually in a job search slash networking context. Um, I want to say that mostly in a networking context, because I very much do it, even though I'm not looking for jobs. We also do it if just thinking about a career, developing career, and also about, or in terms of if you have your own company, stuff like that, you do a lot of one-to-one meetings and stuff like that. But I want to talk about it today because I think it's one of the things that for a lot of internationals is super hard, and it's something where that I see can, even for Danes actually, can be really hard. So I want to dive into like what is it, why we do it, and some small tips of what to do and what not to do. If you don't know me, I'm Diana Lund Nostrom, and I have Elevate Denmark. I help international professionals with an academic degree or background with job search in Denmark. So, coffee meetings. The core basis of a coffee meeting is basically to build relations and to expand your network. And this is also why some people sometimes call coffee meetings um, informal interviews. That was the word. And in my opinion, and the way I look at it, coffee meetings and informal interviews are not the same. A coffee meeting, and this is super important, this is one of the don'ts. In a coffee meeting, you never talk about, do you have a job for me? In an informal interview, that is more like, hey, we might have an opening coming up, and we would love to have a chat with you before we kind of start doing other things. So in an informal interview, you're more focused on, here's actually very likely a job opportunity showing up. Whereas in a coffee meeting, it is more, hey, we want to kind of share knowledge, we want to get to know each other, and get more information, basically. Of course, you also want that in an informal interview, but an informal interview is just still one step closer to a job than a coffee meeting is. And that actually brings me to the fact that why would you do coffee meetings? And the idea with coffee meetings is to gain knowledge. It's for you to learn about aspects that can help you in your job search or career expanding, or your career growth, or just in general. You can also like go for coffee with friends, right? But in this context, what we want is we want to use coffee meetings for either gain knowledge about the industry we want to be in. We want to gain knowledge about the type of position that we're looking for, or we want to learn more about a specific person and their career path, or a specific company. Did I say that already? I don't know if I did. It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't matter. I hope it makes sense. But the idea is that we're going to use coffee meetings to actually gain knowledge that can be helpful for us in the job search, in our process of landing that next job. So when we do coffee meetings, then it helps us get information that we can use in our material. So if I'm applying for a job as a project manager in, I don't know, the beauty industry, then learning from people who are already in the beauty industry, they might not be project managers, but they're in the beauty industry, will mean that when I have to write my next application, I'll have some knowledge that maybe not everyone has, that I can use both in how do I research better. I can use it to kind of see, okay, does this make sense because of the knowledge you have? I can also use it to see, okay, what do I want to focus on in my application material? What kind of questions do I want to call and ask? So all of this information that you collect from the coffee meetings are really meant for you to be better, or do better in the application process. So the first thing you basically do with a coffee meeting is gain that insight, right? To get all of these questions answered that you might have about industry, company, area of expertise, career paths, to get more knowledge. Then the next thing is it's also a super interesting opportunity to ask for advice. You never ask for a job, but you can ask for advice. So it could be oh, this is such an interesting career path you've taken. I'm kind of at this and this uh, part in my career. Do you know, like, or what direction where would you point me to look if I wanted to go in a similar direction as you, or stuff like that? Like, ask for advice from this person, because the one thing is that you get advice that you can use. Another thing is that that person is going to feel helpful and feel valued, that you value their expertise and their knowledge, which makes a huge difference for the individual that you're speaking to, right? So it's the same when I'm always talking about, you have to think about how do you create value for other people in terms of, um, before you ask for something, you start by adding value, right? So basically, this is a way to add value, to ask them to share their expertise, because it shows that you are interested, that you value them, so they can feel valued as well. So asking for advice and showing them that you value their advice is super important. The third thing you get from coffee meetings are connections. And you're creating these connections that are, if you maintain them, of course, and they're not just valuable here and now, they're valuable throughout your life. Some connections are temporary, they are only there for a short meeting, like, or for a short period of time, and others are lifelong, right? It kind of depends on a lot of different things. But the thing is, it can still mean a lot to you. I had a coffee meeting once with someone that I wrote something on LinkedIn, and he wrote in the comments and disagreed with me, like really disagreed with me. And I'm always like, ooh, interesting. Not that I don't encourage people necessarily to disagree with me, but I always find it interesting. I like to learn, right? And I was like, ooh, he has a background that's interesting for my line of work, and he has a different opinion, so I would love to hear more about that. So I wrote him, we wrote back and forth in the comments a bit, and then I was like, hey, can I connect with you? Of course. And then we connected on LinkedIn. So that's kind of a first step, right? And then from that, I was like, hey, you know what? Are you up for grabbing a cup of coffee? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we spoke for like 2 hours, and we actually had a super good connection. Otherwise we wouldn't have spoken for 2 hours. But I haven't seen him since. And that's like, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, something like that. Point being that sometimes, and it's still, so this is a story I'm telling now, right? So both the situation but also the things I spoke with him about made an impact on me, even though I haven't spoken to him since. But it made me think about my own career, my own approach to things. So this way of kind of getting new input is super, super helpful. And then with the people you stay in contact with, you create connections. And even though I could probably, to be honest, I don't remember his name, it's a bit embarrassing, but if I did, I could probably find him on my LinkedIn today and reach out and grab another coffee. And that's how you kind of also can keep those connections going, right? And then when you become, like, not when you become good, that's not what I want to say, but the next thing you can do with the coffee meetings is create ambassadors. So I keep saying it's not about asking for a job, and it's not. You should never ask for a job at a coffee meeting. But what you can do is, and you also should do, is let people know that you're unemployed, so that you can create ambassadors for yourself, so that you can have people who will let you know when they see a position that could be interesting to you, or when they hear about, hey, this company has someone that, um, I have a friend that's going on maternity leave, for example. So in this case, I know that the company is gonna, um, going to have a maternity leave cover for that position. So if I knew someone who would be a good match for this position, I could reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? I've heard that in 4 months, this company is going to need someone. So already now, if this was you I was reaching out to, you would say, oh, that's great. Then you could kind of start to network, or even just write an unsolicited application to the company and say, hey, I've been told this and this and this. And then you would, of course, then ask me to say, hey, can you put in a good word for me? And so that you get those ambassadors, that's both in terms of the companies, but also just to send you positions when something shows up in their LinkedIn feed or wherever they are. So I think that's super, super important. Then the next thing is that, and this is one of the things I hear a lot, it's like, this is great, but where the beep do I actually start? What do I do? How do I find these people that I can learn from and that I can actually sit down and have this coffee with? And one thing is like figuring out where to find it. Another thing is that if you're very shy or introverted or something, this can be even harder, right? So a very good idea here is to start with the people you know. Maybe not your partner, maybe not the closest friends, but start with the people in your outer circle. And because it's not as unnatural to reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for inspiration for my future career. I would love to hear more about yours. What did you do? Especially when you're then wanting to move to a different country, or if you are already in a different country, then reaching out to people in your network or people who have been like in the same situation where there's something in common, because that's kind of the next. So you have like your inner circle, then you have the circle of people you know, and then you have the circle of people that you don't know but you have things in common with. Those are also more likely to say yes if you talk about the things you have in common. So that are the next people. So for example, there's a lot of Facebook groups for specific nationalities in Denmark or Copenhagen. So there's also associations. There's an association called I think it's Indians in Denmark, for example. So if you're an Indian, you can sign up for this, and then you can start reaching out to the people in that association and ask them. And even if you're not in Denmark yet, look into the Facebook groups, look into the places where you're like, okay, I can have something in common with people here. I, for example, studied a semester abroad at the University of Hawaii. That's not true. It was in Hawaii. There are two different universities. It was one of them. It's been a while. But point being that if someone reached out to me and said, hey, I can see we studied at the same university in Hawaii, if HBU, um, Hawaii Pacific University, that was it. Sorry, that was like me. But someone reached out to me and said, hey, I can see that we did that. I'm considering moving to Denmark. Do you have a few minutes for some advice, stuff like that? Then that would be something that was like, ooh, interesting. Or it looks like we have kind of the same career path. I would love to ask, how did you get your first job in Denmark? Or stuff like that, that you can kind of use that as your way into the conversation. There are 3 types of people that you should not ask for coffee meetings, in my opinion. And feel free to ask questions in the chat, by the way. I'll answer them when I'm through the other information here I want to share with you. Then I'm opening up the chat. But the first 3 types of people you don't ask for coffee meetings. The first one is career consultants like myself. So someone whose job it is to give this information. So basically, I have my own company as a career consultant, which means that the advice that I usually have a bit more like theoretical advice about job search, how to do it, but it's what I earn my money from doing, right? So it's kind of like going into the store and asking if you can get, I don't know, the milk for free, and you don't do that, right? So job consultants, HR people, unless you are applying for HR jobs, it feels like the same. Don't ask HR people for networking or for coffee meetings. And then the last One is actively hiring managers. They are also, in my opinion, a little bit off limits. Hiring managers in general, or managers in general, are fine. But if they actively are looking for someone right now, I would not ask them for a coffee meeting. Remember that if you're not based in Denmark yet, you can also do online coffee meetings. That is just fine. It's quite okay to actually reach out and ask people if they want to jump on a 20-30 minute call with you for you to ask your questions. That is okay. And then the last thing is about remember to follow up. Remember to kind of say, hey, thank you so much for your time. I met up with someone earlier today where I got a nice message afterwards saying, hey, it was so great to, and this is kind of on the versus, it's a new friend. So it's, but the point being, and this goes for whatever it's coffee meetings or friendships or whatever it is, follow up. So send a message like, hey, thank you so much for your time. It was really nice. I really enjoyed us talking about this and this and this. Now that you know me a little bit, is there someone that you think it would make sense for me to reach out to for another coffee meeting? Or you could also say, hey, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I can see that you're connected with X and X. Those are two people that I would love to be or to get to know and grab a cup of coffee with. Is there any way that you could introduce me? So that's a different approach to that as well. Okay, so that was like the short version of coffee meetings here. If you have any questions about that or something else about job search related things in Denmark, feel free to ask in the chat. If you're watching replay, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I will answer them later or tomorrow or whenever you ask. In terms of this video, it is part of my 30-day live video here on the platform. And tomorrow's theme is going to be the top mistakes internationals make when applying for jobs in Denmark. Ooh, that one is interesting. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Let me see questions. Hi, what are you talking about? Coffee meetings and informal interviews in Denmark. So yeah, that was the theme for today. I hope this made sense, and that is it for me. If there's no other questions, then I will jump off for today and heading to my next meeting in just a little while. So thank you so much for watching and have an amazing rest of your day.